Hi, Chris here at Slick Cyber Systems. We're going to do some Q&A, talk to Jim with questions that we've come across from things online. Questions we get from customers, questions we get from videos. Today's from Chuck. Chuck's asking, he says he's embarrassed to say they're running it into a tech wall with our civil engineering firm. Our teams are split between job sites, a main office, and remote setups, and it's getting harder and harder to collaborate effectively. CAD files take ages to sync or don't sync at all, and we're constantly stepping on each other's edits. Plus a bunch of field tablets are still running some older software. What they need is help.
Yeah, I would assume that their field users are running CAD, whether it's an AutoCAD or
It seems like that.
Pro E or SolidWorks, what have you. That's a tough one. When you start getting into large engineering organizations, you really need a document management system so you can check these
For edits.
Yeah, exactly. So because otherwise, there's really no. If you're just trying to save it centrally back, yes, it is slow. It's going to be slow. But the beauty of the doc management system is it's holding. If you have to go out on site, right, to a job. Mm-hmm. And we've worked with a lot of engineering firms. Heck, my brother's civil engineer, so I mean, I know what this is like. When you have to go out in the field, what you're supposed to do while you're inside is check out, the document,
like
the
a
drawing,
library, yeah.
And then it tells everybody else, hey, this document's checked out. It cannot be worked on right now because this person hasn't checked out, and they're working on it wherever. In this case, in the field. Then when they get back on site, then they're resyncing up again and putting those changes back in. So checking the document back in. That is the proper way to do it. You can call it the old school way, but it is the proper way. There may be more modern document management solutions that are web-based. Mm-hmm. You're still going to have the issue of getting those files from whatever device you're working on, up to the cloud or wherever it happens to be. Bandwidth is bandwidth. So there's not a whole lot of happy answers I can give to this one.
It's a little windy here today, so
yeah,
if you hear some wind, we apologize for the noise.
Yeah, there's just not a whole hell of a lot of happy information I can give to anybody at this point, because bandwidth is key. You've got to have plenty of bandwidth to be able to move these large documents around, and again, I know very well how large they can get.
It's good.
But it's the only other thing that could work and would work actually pretty efficiently, but you need online access all the time, is if you're running an RDS environment, remote desktop environment, and you've got to have some very powerful servers with some very powerful graphics cards. We're talking of large internal workstations with multi-graphics cards, running basically a server operating system, and they'll have the horsepower to be able to work on those drawings. Then you're pretty much running natively, and that person making the edits
just doing it remotely,
you're doing it remotely over a connection, which is way faster than trying to sync that file back and forth. And there's a lot less risk of data loss too, because the file never leaves. Yeah. So I think in the best case scenario for you, it was Chuck. The best case scenario for you is that is the direction that I would look into today, or look at a document management system. I can just forewarn you ahead of time. They are very, very, very expensive, and very expensive to maintain. So for whatever that's worth, there's no easy solution for this one. This would take some good resource from us to be able to look, or a similar company to us, to be able to look at the situation and just make sure that all these details.
Analysis, yeah,
exactly. So best I can do on that one.
Okay, just give me 1 second while I go to the next one here. All right, that was Chuck, and we're moving on to looks like Melissa. This one's interesting. She says that They run a private tutoring business, a little over 100 families, and they're starting to get a little nervous about the tech they have. We store EIP assessments and other student notes. Oof, you're gonna love this one. On Google Drive, but I have no idea if it's secure enough. Plus, my part-time tutors all use their own laptops and logins, and it's starting to get messy.
Wow, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, Danger Will Robinson. You need to check change like now.
Yeah.
Wow. Quite honestly, when it comes to anything, with especially with children, right? You're dealing with PHI, protected health information, electronic protected health information, EPHI. So whether it's a school thing or not, it still has the student's name. There's a Social Security attached, number attached to the back of there has to be. I mean, otherwise you don't get credit, in the state. I'm assuming Melissa's from Pennsylvania.
It doesn't say.
Doesn't say.
Yeah.
I can only speak, on PA's rules, but I think they're probably fairly consistent throughout the country. In my opinion, the best way for this is, again, a remote desktop solution where everybody, you're just using your laptop
and you're logging in.
And you're logging into the server, and everything happens on the server.
Yeah.
You're editing those documents there; they never leave. And from a backup standpoint, obviously, we're capturing them constantly, and
you could be keeping revisions.
Yeah, and then you won't have to deal with the potential risk of, now you've got a secured tunnel, you're VPNing, into your main office, and then from there, you're accessing, a remote desktop server from there. So again, encrypted tunnel. So all the traffic from here to there, is encrypted, and it's on-prem. It's not leaving. So
the thing that makes me scared on this whole thing is, outside of everything you've said, is that they're using part-time tutors or sometimes using their own laptops. So if they don't have a virtual, laptop or environment they're logging into to work on it, what's going on that device.
And of course, you always have to worry about the local device. Even if you're running VPN, you have to worry that device.
No, but I'm saying if they had a remote, a separate desktop or something.
Well, they would if you were running, again, an RDS session, but I still even worry about you running your personal laptop. You don't know, what security measures they've taken on that machine. So
they should
if they have a problem on that machine and they connect to VPN, well, they just brought it inside. So into your network.
Potentially check the machine's domain, connect them, run out the software you need to on them.
I personally think that absolutely this should be
at minimum.
These should be none. They should be all corporate devices.
Agreed.
They should not be, And you're dealing with, in my opinion, a fairly highly secure thing, and you're dealing with children, and you're dealing with that kind of stuff. It needs to be taken seriously. So
definitely.
Appreciate the email in there. But you really need to look at that now, because Google Drive, I wouldn't, it's no different. I'm not picking on Google Drive per se, but that would be like using your personal OneDrive. It's not the company's. It's like all over the place. You shouldn't be using that stuff. You should be using either the Google Suite, from the business side, or SharePoint, right? Teams, SharePoint. On the Microsoft side, there's a lot of ways to clobber this and not have it break the bank and be secure.
Want to do another?
Sure, why not?
All right, let's see. Alex works in a...
Ovechkin just broke the record.
Just Alex.
Not a fan. I'm a Flyers fan, but still like the guy.
Alex works in, it looks like a fabrication shop. So he actually says, hey Jim, he says he's seen in the past that you've helped some fabrication people, and he has a metal shop currently set up. He says it's duct tape for his best of visibility, but the CNC machines are all networked.
Okay.
But they drop offline randomly. We have 0 backups in place for the machine's configs or job files.
Wow.
And he's afraid if something went down, he doesn't honestly know if he could recover it.
I wonder how he's pushing if they're all networked, how's he pushing it? He's got to be running over networks. What's he connected to? So that has me scared. So I would need to know, Alex. I would need to know a lot more about how you're doing this today. Because typically, if you say that you have all your CNCs networked, that means there's some type of central server where this stuff's being, we're located at, whether it's Z code or what have you, that you're pushing, back down into the, into the CNC machines. And conversely, I mean, obviously a lot of software like SolidWorks and probably a bunch of them today, they'll talk direct and do the conversion for you. So that just tells me, okay, are you really networked? Are you backing up that server that everything is on? Mm-hmm. Or are we literally talking about just a little switch here and maybe a laptop or two or a desktop or two, where this stuff's getting dropped down into, and then you're not, backing that up.
Yeah, so, there's not a lot of notes. It's about all.
Yeah,
all really had.
This is pretty simple. If you don't have a file server, you should probably have one, and then that should be backed up constantly. And even if you only have one or two desktops that you're working on, there's ways that we can put software on there to at least alleviate the backup issue. And as far as them dropping offline, then that tells me more of a network related issue, similar, you may have a bad switch, there's bad wire. I mean, there's a lot of potentials there, because typically those machines are pretty rock solid. Yeah. And so when I hear that, I'm going, okay, this sounds like a potential core network issue. Pretty much all I have to say about that one. Yep. But we can help. So.
I got more if you're.
We'll save it for another day.
Okay.
So,
fair enough.
I'm Jim. Chris, Slick Cyber Systems, 570-215-8888. SlickCyberSystems.com.
Yep. Text, chat, email, all that jazz is on there.
Talk to you then. If you find this content helpful, please like the video, subscribe, and share with your friends and your colleagues. Thank you.